Hey everyone, hi, welcome back to my channel. I know that half of you won't believe me, but I am in a wretched mood right now. I'm in a wretched mood. Even that comment of saying I know half of you won't believe me is just revealing the wretchedness of my mood. I filmed a video. It's life stuff and nothing dire. It's just life, y'all. And it's taking a brain space, and it is just all here, there, and everywhere. And so here's what I'm gonna do. To cheer myself up, I'm gonna pick out 24 classics that I want to read in 2024. 24 classics in 2024. I got it. We're there. Yes, I'll give you context in a minute about the classics and all of that. Oh, Harry is visiting me. He always makes me in a better mood. Okay, I will give you some context when we get into the meat of the video. So if you are new to my channel, what a video to have clicked on. I am not usually in a wretched mood, but I am. I am. I'm in a bad mood right now, and yeah. And I really love to read. What else? This channel is all about reading and books and my love for books and encouraging others to read. And it is a place where we rally around, regardless of our mood, to talk about the things that we love in this precious life that we have. And so if you like the vibe and the mission of this channel, I would encourage you to subscribe, stick around. Without any further yammering on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. 2024 is going to be the third year that I am going to read the amount of classics that are in the tens and ones position of the year. So 24 classics in 2024. I have met and exceeded my goal every year. I think I have this year. I'm not gonna check right now, but I know I will make the goal this year because either I have met it already or I have one book left. And we're not gonna get into the weeds of that. I enjoy this project because I like classics, and to me, it is a very low-key, chill project, you know, for me at least. And it doesn't take a whole lot for me to read about two classics per month. But usually I have a very belabored, I pour so much of myself into making those last two videos. Like, I am meticulous about my choosing, and then I end up reading whatever I want anyways. And so this isn't the official list, but if based on today, these are the 24 classics that I would set out to read these are the 24 I feel like I'm not saying the word 24, I feel like I'm saying the word 20. But when I edit this back, I'll be like, no girl, you were saying 24 the whole time, and then you're just second guessing yourself. So get it together. Shelly. So the whole plan is that I'm going to just look at my shelves and see what I'm inspired by and choose the 24 classics that I would like to read in 2024. But right now, based on this wretched mood, because I feel like it might get me in a better mood. And, you know, usually when I make the list, I look for some sort of balance. I look for like long books and short books. I look for, you know, a manageable amount of mammoths. Today, it's all feelings out with this list, and maybe you will feel inspired by looking at your shelves and just trying to suss out what your heart wants in this moment. I find these exercises good because it helps me get out of my head, which is sometimes a frustrating place to be. And it helps me like look at something tangible and get excited about something for the future. And then, like, you know, who cares if I don't actually read those exact books? It's not about being perfect. It's about just loving the moment, loving the collection that I have, and taking joy from it. And that's what this is. Despite my bad mood, it is a joyful video. So I'm gonna go suss out my first round of classics. I'm just gonna gather the ones that speak to me. I'm not gonna be logical about it. I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, I think if I actually got into it and about, you know, if I give it 50 pages, I'm gonna really love it. No, I'm gonna just be like, my heart is double beating because I feel like that book is for me. Now, half the time when I actually feel like a book is for me, wow, we're really getting in the weeds. I'm so sorry, y'all, but don't apologize. When I feel like a book is for me, that sometimes is the stamp of death for the book, because it means that I have like my own expectations that are all wound into what I feel like the book will be, and then when the book is not what it's supposed to be, then I get very angry, and or I have to change, and change is hard, especially for me, and so things just get all weird. So yes, so let me go. What a weird premise for the video. I'm so sorry, y'all. If you're like here, if you're here and you're like, this girl is off the chain. I mean, sorry, not sorry. You know, like this is just the mood I'm in. I'm gonna pick up my first round of books and stop talking. So I'll be back. And when I say classic, I'm looking for books that are older than me. Okay, books. And I'm not gonna tell you how old I am. You could just suss out how old you think I am. And I'm looking for books that are older than me. I actually have more than 24 books, so I'm gonna make piles first, and then I will show you the piles, and we will see what gets kicked out and what doesn't, and we'll kind of go from there. So let me do a little bit of reorganizing, and I will show you the categories that I came up with, and we'll kind of go from there. We'll just make it a whole thing. Why not just show you the whole process? And actually running around my house, well, not running, but walking and assessing the things in my house, I noticed that even as I was looking at books and I was just in that headspace of choosing, like seeing books that I haven't read that I want to read next to books that I have read that I love, and taking this moment of getting out of my head and getting busy, focusing on future plans, and just like reminding myself why I love books, it already put me in a better mood. So my bad mood was like here, and now I'm like, you know, I've taken a step forward. So that's a good thing. Let me make these piles and then I will get back with you. 4 distinct categories emerged. The first one is new books to me that I definitely want to read. So, of that, we have And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, The Murder on the Orient Express, John Galsworthy, The Forsyth Saga. Now, here is what's interesting, is that if I was making, or when I actually make my because I have a bunch of ebooks too that are classics, when I actually make maybe my official, like 24 classics in 2024, not based on this mood, this like thought experiment type of thing. The thing is like, this is a chunky book, and the next like several books I'm going to show you are very chunky. And what's interesting is that when I make my official list, things like chunkiness and all of that plays a role into my official list. Like I think about it, I'm like, am I going to burn out on longer reads? But if we're basing it just on my mood, you know, mood doesn't always go towards like what makes the most logical sense, like what I have time for and the realities of my life. Mood is just like, do I want to read it or do I not want to read it? And so I look at this and I'm like, yes. Forsyth Saga, yes. Ovid's Metamorphosis, another rather long book, and this is a yes. But again, if I was making like the most logical decisions, which I tend to do in those videos when I'm making like my lists, I try to make a list that's, you know, possible. You know, I might not put this in with the Forsyth Saga and with, for example, the Grapes of, is this the Grapes of Wrath? No, East of Eden. Because again, it's like I got these chunky books here, there, and everywhere, and you know, it's not the most logical thing to do, but if it was just what my heart wants, I want to read both of these, and I want to read them with a passion. Like I have a burning passion to read both of these, and you know, to heck with my mood. To heck with logical constraints. That's what I meant. To heck with that bad mood, because I'm in a pretty good mood now. to heck with logical constraints, because I don't know. It's really kind of, these are calling to me. They both are, even though their lengths are kind of intimidating. Also, if I was being logical, I would not put 2 books by the same author on it. Like, I would want it to be as varied as possible. And so, but you know, moods don't dictate that. And so I also want to read The Grapes of Wrath, which is probably why I held up the other book and said The Grapes of Wrath, because I know I wanted to read both of them. They're both by John Steinbeck. Another rather chunky book, even though it's written for younger people and the font is generous, but it is a chunkier book, and it is The Yearling by Marjorie Kinnan Rowling. I even opened this up and read the first page to see what it was like, and I was like, this looks really good. And the description was very country-esque and homey, and I don't know, there was just something about the description where I feel like you were, I don't know, from the first couple sentences I was like, ooh, I feel like I'm gonna get a good story. Is that gonna actually be true? I don't know. I mean, it did win the Nobel, the Pulitzer Prize. It did win the Pulitzer Prize. So, you know, a group of judges out there at one point in time thought this was an amazing book. I just haven't read it, so, you know, but I already have like fond feelings going into it, and so it's like, isn't that how we always want to start our books, with fond feelings? But again, sometimes with fond feelings, they, you know, you fall hard when you have such high expectations. So yeah, anyhow, but yeah, this did make the books I definitely really super duper want to read. Who knew that this author would make the list? It's probably because a couple of you have been just like very encouraging and sweet about this author, and it is Thomas Hardy's Far from the Madding Crowd. So this made I definitely want to read this, because I feel like a lot of people said this is a great place to start with Hardy. Susan Sontag, oh my gosh, Susan Sontag on photography. She wrote one of my favorite nonfiction books of last year, and it was Regarding the Pain of Others, and this is her book on imagery and photos, and my husband and I are both photographers in our own right, and so, you know, it would be interesting to read about someone who thinks deep, I'm looking at the glare, who thinks deeply about photography and that medium of art. I remember doing like try a chapter, but it was like try the first sentence and see what I feel about it, and it's In Naturalist Buys an Old Farm, and this is by Edwin Way Teale. I really loved his writing. It was very engaging, and it really had this like calming spirit about it, and I loved that. And it was just, even just from that first paragraph, I felt like he was really relaxed in the way that he was telling you about nature. And I was like, that's what I need in my life. We're gonna actually go back and see, like, from like, maybe I can make some assessments as to like what I'm in the mood for, just based on choosing these books. All right, next I have Daniel Deronda's George Eliot's Daniel Deronda. No, Shelley. Shelley. Okay, George Eliot's Daniel Deronda. If y'all know, I loved Middlemarch by Daniel Deronda, and I don't think that anything is going to live up to that. I mean, book critics and readers alike agree that Middlemarch is the masterpiece, but I do think that there is room in my heart for another book that I could love by George Eliot. This is just a behemoth of a thing. It's huge, and I think what gets me is that it says that this is George Eliot's most ambitious novel. It doesn't say that it was her most successfully ambitious novel, but I like that it's about women, and we're thinking about talented young Jewish women. And there's something about the copy on the back that is getting me every time. Now I actually have to like open it up and read it, but I feel like I need another massive chunkster of a George Eliot novel in my life, and this one was the one that was calling to me. We have Emma by Jane Austen. I have not read Austen's Big Six yet, and I really want to, and I just feel like I'll really love Emma, that it will be, it'll just, from what I know, the plot just really moves along, and I feel like that is something that I would really enjoy. And it's funny. I think this is one of her more silly, sort of funny novels. Oh, and this is a book that I started some years back. I think it was during the pandemic, and I read a good portion of it, and I was like, I want to get back to her writing because I really enjoyed it. And it was The Complete Poems of Anne Sexton. And I really love this. I remember I even made my husband read a poem, and then I read the poem, and then we discussed it. We had like, you know, a few minutes together of thoughts and to discuss it, and we got totally different things from it, and so that memory is attached to this book. But I just enjoyed her poems at large, and I want to get back to the beautiful writing that it is. I don't know how long I can hold this, but I will say that based on this grouping here, and I have the Agatha Christie's, I am looking for escapist literature. I'm in that, I think the Agatha Christie itself, the Forsyth saga, and even Daniel Deronda and like An Old Naturalist Buys a Farm by Edwin Way, a naturalist, not an old naturalist, A Naturalist Buys a Farm by Edwin Way Teale. Those are all showing me that I want escapist literature. I also want to get back to books by authors that I am familiar with, that I enjoyed, and I see that from Anne Sexton, Jane Austen, and George Eliot, not Daniel Deronda. I'm also in the mood to try safe reads. So for me, that would be Steinbeck. A lot of people have come out in the comments saying that I would really, really enjoy Steinbeck. And that I would enjoy Hardy, but of course I'm not on this list. Is not Jude the Obscure by Hardy. It's not one of his hard-hitting, more difficult novels. It's the one that is the crowd pleaser. So Far From the Madding Crowd is more of a crowd pleaser. I feel like I'm in the mood for a chunky read because a lot of these books are chunky. Now the logical side of me is like, Shelley, you don't have time for all this. Like, this is a lot. This is a lot. And also just getting to some reads that I've been meaning to get to for a really long time that I just feel like I'm ready for, and that would be Ovid's Metamorphosis. So logic dictates that this is a lot for 24 books in 2024, and this isn't even all 24. That this is a lot. This is kind of a chunky, big stack to be holding up, for one. And I'm going to set this down in just a moment. This is a big stack to try and conquer, and it might be a little more than I am willing to give a go in 1 year, even just this stack alone. And it just might be a bit overwhelming. So don't choose, like, the logical side of me is like, this is a bit much for the upcoming year. And so you might want to whittle it down. You might want to intersperse more short reads in, and you might want to like give yourself a little more grace. But if it was just based on my mood, this would be the yes stack, the absolutely 100%. I want to read these and I want to make sure that I get to them in 2024. That's how I'm feeling about this stack right now. And as we know, moods change. This is just like a preliminary, like, this is what looks good right now, and I would love to get to them. In a smaller category, I have books, classics that I want to read, but I'm slightly intimidated, and that would be these three. So we have Moby Dick by Herman Melville. I have started this and I'm still intimidated by it. We have Terrence the Comedies. He's an ancient writer, part of the Ancients canon, and sometimes I'm always thankful and just so refreshed when I read an ancient work, but sometimes I need like a slight nudge towards that direction. And then finally, The Histories by Herodotus. Again, I feel like I'll really love it and I want to read it, but I almost need like a little, like a slight nudge in that direction. And so these three, I am like, I'm just intimidated by them. One, I think Melville's writing is intimidating, to say the least. Like, I know that that's why I'm intimidated, even though I want to read it. And I feel like once I do read it, I will love it, Like, that's my feeling, is that when I read it, I'll just like, it'll rank as like one of my favorite books of all time. Like, I just have that feeling about it. Wow, you're really getting the like innards of my heart right now, but what do you expect from this very moody video? And then the other ones is Terrence, the Comedies, and the Histories. They're ancient works. And just sometimes I feel a little bit intimidated by ancient works. So even though I know that the writing, The writing is there all writing is there to entertain, I mean, or inform. I mean, there are different purposes of writing, but this kind of writing, they want readers, you know, they want people to read their stuff. And with these translators, the comedies and the histories, you know, their translators want their books to sell and their books to be enjoyed. Like the authors want their books to be enjoyed. And so I know that it's not necessarily like an intimidating stack. Like, I know I'm probably making it bigger in my mind than I should, but there is still something that is just a little, like, maybe I might need a little gentle encouragement towards picking these up. So these three, I would definitely put on my list if I was choosing all of my books in this moment and putting down a solid list for 2024. With these books, if I had included them, or, you know, if I had included them to my original stack had 13 books. The ones that I felt like gripped and excited, and there was like nothing blocking me from reading it. Like, I just felt unabashed excitement about the list. That's 13 books. Plus these three, that would be 16. And then I have a reread stack, and that includes Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. I love this. A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf, another one that I love. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. I think probably because we're in Victober, and I love this book when I read it like 10 years ago. I am due for a reread. And I love this book when I read it for the first time. It was so good. We also have The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton, and The Iliad by Homer, translated by Robert Fitzgerald. So if I was choosing rereads to include, and I was surprised that I chose these. Like, these books like leapt out from the shelves into my hand, and they were like, read me, Shelley. And so it was kind of interesting because I didn't know that this, you know, I hadn't really considered. Usually when I do my 24 classics for 2024, when I do those kinds of videos and I'm building those lists, I'm like, they have to be new reads. And I didn't even realize that that was a list. I mean, if that was a rule for me, until I did grab these books. And then I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that I was subconsciously telling myself no rereads can enter the list. And that's not fair, because I know that these will give me a lot of joy. I love them the first time around. Some of them I love them the first and second time around, and I just want to love on these books. And I know that they'll be a good time. And I think that's also speaking to my mood, because I'm in, or I was in, a bad mood. I'm not really in a bad mood anymore. But because I was in a bad mood, I was like, I want something that I know that I'll love, and that I can sink my teeth into, and that I'll enjoy, and I'll just love being in the world. And these books gave me those feelings the first time around. And so I feel like they're a surefire bet for me that I'll have that feeling the second time around as well. This is like the bottom of the top tier of, you know, the books I want to read next. These books were at the bottom. and I guess I'll try and figure out why. The first, well, here, I'll show you. So as like a little flash on the screen, these books were on the bottom. So the first one was the Macchiacca Sisters by Junichiro Tenzanaki. I should really practice that name. I think that this might be a bit of a slow moving and a bit of an intimidating read. I don't know much about it, and that's probably the problem, is that I just don't know much about it, and I have not really tasted the writing, and if I have, I don't remember it. And yeah, I have a feeling this might be one of those books where it takes 100 pages to get into, and I'm feeling a little trepidatious about it. We also have My Cousin Rachel, and I think it's just that I am familiar with Daphne du Maurier's writing, and I do really enjoy it, but I do have to be in the mood for it, and I don't know if my mood right now is good for this book at the moment. So if I have my math right, if I included the intimidating reads, if I included the rereads and my books that I felt super crazy excited to read, the initial stack, then I would only need to choose 2 from this final stack to get to the 24. So the next I have is Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar. I want to read this. I feel like I'll really like it, but considering that this book is all about sad girl vibes. I'm kind of like, is that really what I want right now? The answer was like, not really. I love this book. It's Anne of Green Gables. I love this so much. I love this book so much. But here's the deal. Even though I read this, it'll be coming up 2 years ago in January. I read this 2 years ago in January. I feel as if I remember every scene. Like, that I remember this book so well. And I love this book. It has nothing to do with my love for the book. It just feels like it's just very sharp in my memory. And that's not really what I want. I don't know if I want to reread something that's so intensely sharp. Oh, and this is Anne of Green Gables by Ella Montgomery. It's an amazing book. I love this book. But there is just something about its familiarity is like sort of ground into my consciousness. Partly because I watched the miniseries and that I read this not that long ago, that I just am like, I don't know. I think on the same themes of like the sad girl vibes, Tess of Downward I picked this and then I was like, do I want to read about tragedy? Do I want the book to rip my heart into a million pieces right now? I'm like, I don't know if that's really what I want right now. All right, and then we have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Again, I'm not really sure if I want to read about toxic love. You know, I don't know. And then finally it's My Antonia by Willa Cather. I don't know. I think this is the same thing as the Macchiaca sisters. I don't know much about it. I don't really know what it's, I don't know. I just don't know. I could not summarize this book for you if my life depended on it. Nebraska Prairie Life. See, so I think those, with the Macchiaca sister and My Antonia, I think we're just in a situation in which if I got to know the books a little bit better, read the first couple pages, could really like sink my teeth into like what the story might be slightly about, I might feel a bit differently. But as it stands right now, I'm just like, I don't know. If I were going to choose two from the stack, I think it would be My Antonia and the Macchiaca sisters, because of the way I articulated just now, the fact that I don't want to read them only because I don't know them. And that's an easy fix. All right, so the final roundup would be this stack right here. And this is the 3 bottom books are my intimidating reads. The 2 top books are ones that I just need to get to know a little bit better. Sexton, Eliot, Austen, and Sontag. These, I would say, they are familiar friends, and that's why they make the list. Honestly, with these last 9, I think I just have really good vibes. And again, that could go really either way. Could mean that I could be really disappointed if the book is not what I expected it to be. But, you know, I just think that they're going to render excellent reads. And that would be Steinbeck, Ovid, Steinbeck again, Rowlings, Hardy, Edwin Waytiel, Galsworthy, and Agatha Christie. And that's who makes this list. And I would just call this list good vibes. If you do this, please let me know. What a wonderful way to spend like an hour for me. Just looking at my collection, feeling a lot of joy, getting myself out of a bad mood, and just loving talking to you all about like what my plans are and why they are going the way they're going, and just getting myself out of the bad mood that I was in. Honestly, it was just so much fun, and to really articulate why I feel the way I feel about certain books, and to kind of dream up a scenario in which I choose whatever 24 books I want to read, even if time was no object, you know? As if I'm gonna feel this way about these books for the whole year. Who knows, I might lose a bit of interest, and then sometimes I just cycle back around to wanting to read something, and it all works out. And who knows, I might have even skipped over a book I wanted to read even more than the ones that I picked right now. You know, there's all these possibilities that are out there, and it's all good, you know. But most of all, what was important was the thought experiment and the enjoyment of the thought experiment, and putting these books in the presence of my mind very intentionally, and, you know, giving you all a preview of like what you might actually get with my official, whatever that even means, my official 24 books and 24 classics in 2024. And yeah, I guess that's it. So thank you so much for watching. Tell me if you end up doing this, if you do a version of this yourself, and how you feel at the end of it all. I highly recommend this. This just exercise of picking books you want to read next, and feeling excited about them, and feeling the joy of wanting to read, and getting yourself out of a bad mood if you're in a bad mood. And yeah, and all of that. So I guess that's it from me. I'm going to stop rambling on. What are you planning on reading in 2024? What are you thinking about? What are your ideas? What classics do you think I ought to read? I would love to hear your opinions and thoughts down below. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!